All right, today we're going to be tearing into a 1976 Ski-Doo snowmobile. Couple disclaimers before we get started here. I'm not a snowmobile guy. I haven't torn into a lot of snowmobile motors. I don't even have the proper tools for this job. And I don't know how many animals are actually living in this motor. This machine has been sitting around for a very, very long time. It hasn't been rode for like 20, 30, 40 years. 50 years probably. So, no idea what's going to come crawling out of this thing. I don't have the clutch puller for this. I've already pulled the motor. That was a complete disaster in itself. And I wanted to show you guys inside of this motor. I've pulled the fan cover off of here, and then I decided, you know what, I want to show you guys how to dig into this thing to the best of my ability. Again, like I said, haven't torn into a lot of these. So we've got the clutch over here. The transmission I've already torn apart. Very, very simple procedure there. That has a secondary clutch. This is the primary clutch. So this is the drive clutch. So we've got sort of an engine cover here, and this is all kind of enclosed and insulated. I'm imagining imagine they insulated this to keep the noise down, potentially keep the heat in. I don't really know for sure. So over on this side here, we've got your recoil pull starter. We've got the rope that's sticking out a little bit. Typically that would be a concern of mine. Maybe it needs rebuilt. The thing is, so I'm not sure, this might be out of the camera, but if you set this thing about 1.5 feet away, that's where your pull start actually sits. So on the body of the snowmobile, your rope is going to sit about 1.5 feet out from your recoil pull starter. So this doesn't concern me. It's kind of annoying having it flop around. So first thing we're going to do is actually pull this recoil pull starter off. We've got our intake boot here. It's a single carburetor. It's a twin cylinder. This is a 2-stroke. So I've got the carburetor actually in the ultrasonic cleaner now. We're going to go through that completely. I'll show you a separate video on that. We've got 2 spark plug coils down here. Probably not a great shot for you guys to see that, but coil wires run up. If this is sitting on the machine going forward, this is going to be the right hand. This is the left hand. You're sitting right where I'm standing here. And we've got your left coil that comes up and goes to your left cylinder. Right coil comes up, right cylinder. We've got your engine number here, a model number, and then we've got some specs up here, if you can see that in the camera angle. So, all that to say, let's get into this motor here. I want to show you some details on this motor, and then I want to show you what it looks like inside. All right, pulling this recoil pull starter off. You might have slightly different sizes on yours. I think this is probably the stock bolt here, which is a 10mm. And that is off. We just had 3 of them. I don't know if there's supposed to be more than that. This is a little bit tight on here. Oh, there's another one. Cut that out. There we go. Okay, no live animals in this one. Slightly dirty pull starter. We'll clean that out. There's your recoil pull starter there. This is a serious. Okay, fully functioning. This is an interesting setup. And this is not like 4-wheelers. Recoil pull starter set aside. Bolts are there. Now we can pull this pulley off here. We have got a 7/8 socket here. You could also use a 21mm. That's off, and that's off. So this is a 2-piece pulley. You're not actually gonna be able to see it very well from your angle, are you? Okay, there's your little belt there, not very big. Goes on that pulley, goes on this pulley. This is a several-piece pulley here, so just make sure that you've got, whoa, all your shims in there. There we go. We'll keep all of this together. We have 2 spacers and some other stuff. Spacer there, woodruff key there. Set that all aside. And we have got a larger nut in here. I'll tell you what size that is. Looks to me like we've got 13 millimeters around the outside. I think that's right, but this is an impact socket, not gonna be able to fit in there. So I'm gonna grab a smaller socket. We'll see how this one fits. Still not gonna fit. Okay, it fits that one. I really don't know why that one isn't going to fit on there. I think if we remove this, not all this is going to be able to pull off of there. I could be wrong. Here's what I'm going to do. Without dinging up this gear here, do a little force on there. Okay, there we go. That's off. Let's see what pops off here. Literally nothing. Okay, we got to remove that larger nut there. Not a big deal. I'll grab a socket for that. We've got an 1 3/16" socket here. Okay, so these three nuts, or these three bolts here that I pulled out of here, the 13 millimeters, would have actually allowed this to come off of there. And that's where your recoil pull starter grabs right there. Okay, now what you have underneath here is your flywheel. And this we're going to need a puller for. And it's your lucky day. I actually sell these pullers. So let me go grab that puller for you. I'll show you exactly what we need here. We'll go ahead and remove this flywheel. We'll be back in business. Then we're going to pull this entire cover off of here. I think we could pull this cover off now. But I want to pull this flywheel first. Okay, we've got puller here. I'm going to grab my bolts here. And again, I sell these pullers. Let me know if you need them. I'll have a link below in the description. Take you to the exact puller that you need. Run these in here. These are specific for this thread. So you want to make sure you don't try using a different thread pitch. This is a metric thread, and the puller that you'll receive will have exactly what you need. Okay, these might be slightly different, slightly longer, slightly shorter, but they'll fit your machine here. Run these in. You don't want to go too far. You can see back in there. You can go about 1 inch or so. The other thing you want to make sure that you're going in there straight, and make sure that your puller's lined up there and going in there straight. So go ahead and get that lined up. If by chance one of these is tightened down more than the other, your puller will come in at some sort of a weird angle. It won't pull this flywheel straight off. That's going to cause some issues. So this one here is a 19 millimeter, and I can't say for sure that yours is going to be a 19. Some of the puller styles that we have are going to be different. This shaft will be slightly different, possibly, but this one's 19. Impact it on there. Boom. Popped right off of there. Okay. I don't know if you saw that. Went kind of kapow real quick like. And this is magnetic. So it's got some weight behind it. But that is what you're looking at there. That's your flywheel. So, again, if you need this puller, let me know. I want you guys to get the right one. We dropped the end piece down in here. That popped off of there with all the commotion. So, remove this puller now. You won't need it until the next time you pull this motor. So set that down. We'll remove these. These are a 10 millimeter head. Okay, once we get these 3 bolts pulled off of there, our flywheel remover is here. Here is our flywheel. Again, magnetic there. We've got a little arm there, spring loaded. Make sure these are in good condition. Inspect them. Sometimes if these flywheels and these stator assemblies, these alternators, explode, we'll have shrapnel all over this thing. A lot of times these weights or these magnets here will be damaged. These are actually replaceable. So Maybe I'll do a little research for you and see where we can get these magnets ordered from. Otherwise, you have to order a new flywheel. More than likely, this thing is getting close to 50 years old. You're going to have a very hard time finding this flywheel. So, that being said, message me below if you need any of that. Again, link for this puller down below in the description. We are done with this for now. Okay, earlier I said we could pull this cover off. I stand corrected. You cannot actually pull this off until you remove this flywheel because there's more 13mm bolts down in here, okay? And I think, don't quote me on this, I think we can pull it off without removing this stator. I don't know why you would. I will try it. If we can't, I'll simply stop and remove this stator. One 13mm nut. Okay, well, looky there. We're going to be able to remove this without pulling that stator. Okay, we do have one wire connected there. That's going to take a flat screwdriver. Remove this. This stator is actually in excellent condition. Okay, this machine was running. If you guys check us out on social media, you'll see a couple other videos of us picking this up. So, also check those videos out because a little sneak peek of what's coming up for videos. Little hint there, it's going to be another snowmobile. Okay, that's out, that's out. That fan actually stayed with this cover here. It's a good looking cover. We also have like an enormous mouse nest in here. So far I haven't seen anything come out scurrying around. I did see a bunch of baby mice when I went to pull this motor, so the mama's got to be somewhere. Got two Allens, I believe, holding this stator together. And then while we're here, why don't we remove this engine cradle? That's going to be fairly easy. 4mm Allens here. So two, I believe, 4mm Allens. Don't get confused with 4 2mm Allens. It's actually just two 4mm Allens. That'll confuse you. Okay, got both of those removed. What just fell down into my mouse nest here? I think a bolt. Yep. I'm gonna leave that. Not looking to get my finger eaten off today. Okay, stator is ready to come out of there. Now, before we do that, we've actually got wires that are gonna run to, I believe, our coil. I can't see that, I'm just feeling it's going over here. And I'm gonna flip this motor over and see if we can see where those wires go. We'll need to disconnect those. So, correct, they are going over to your coils. I'm gonna grab a screwdriver, remove a couple flat screws here. I believe it was about 50 years ago they stopped using flat screws on these stupid things. Okay, pulled one flat screw out. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove all of these. It doesn't seem to, stator wires seem to be connected farther downstream a little bit, so I'm gonna pull these coils anyways. May as well do it now. That's removed. Another one here. Okay, it looks like about four bolts on each coil. Right side coil is off. Seems like overkill for these coils. Don't think we needed to have 4 mounting bolts on each one. Okay, that's off, that's off. Coils are off. Now, flipping this back over here. What wires were holding us up there? Okay, there we go. Now I can see what's going on. Pull these both over here. This has got a wire holder. There we go. Okay, now we have these wires going here. Can pull that off. Okay, it's just a butt connector, a line butt connector. So we'll remove both of these. Being careful not to break those. Oh, that one's short anyways. Okay, and same thing on this one. And now the stator is completely to itself. We've got another little shorty there. I'm gonna set that aside. Well, I'm gonna pull these and get these out of here. Remove it off the spark plugs, just pull. It should be fairly tight. Should kind of click on there. Setting these aside. Those get cleaned up and tested. Now we've got our stator ready to come off of here. We've got points on here. This is your charging system. Doesn't technically charge your battery as much as just maintain, so keep that in mind. Had a little washer that fell down in there, not a big deal. But that there looks to be in good condition. We'll test that. And we got a spring load behind there with a washer. Okay, we got a Woodruff key over here. That one seems to want to stay put, so we'll just leave that there. Pulling our cradle, we've got a 19 millimeter, 4 19 millimeter nuts here. Okay, I am actually not going to remove this cradle, and the reason why is because I'm going to flip this motor back up. I need something so that this motor is going to stand upright so I can keep working on this. I don't want that motor, I don't want to keep wrestling that motor. So I am going to flip this over. I'm going to dump out any sort of rodent that's in here, and I'm going to clean that mess up so I can get into this top end. All right, next thing I'm going to do after I cleaned all the rodents out of there, and I believe there's still maybe a couple more in here, but for the time being, I'd like to get into this actual top end. So going to go ahead and keep removing this cover here. Again, I said it was insulated. I've got a handful of 13 millimeter bolts around the outside of this. We'll pull this. This is where the hood was actually attached to, one of these bolts here. So there was a long wire that went up to the actual hood of the machine. I don't know what's going on with this one. Seems to be some sort of nut behind there. And we got a couple what looks to be 10 millimeter bolts here. Okay, and that is to get it around the head pipe there. Go to this side, a couple more 13s. We've got our intake boot here. Couple spots here, I'll tip this up so you guys can see. So these, you actually have to straighten up these tabs. This is what keeps these bolts from working themselves out. And then this one just had that ignition coil wire running over it. So remove that. This, to remove the cover, I don't know that you have to remove these, but may as well. We've got the boot here and the adapter. I'm going to keep this all together. These look like, keep this all together here. And this, you see we've got a little tab there. I'm curious what that's for. So, and then obviously a gasket here, that'll get replaced. Throw that away. Go ahead and remove this. Okay, now, depending on what's going on with this one up here, I should be able to pull this all off of here. All right, so kind of an interesting situation here. I could actually pull this up far enough, this insulation back, to see that there was a nut in behind this one. I don't know if the weld broke on this nut or if there's actually a nut back there. So, 13 millimeter, pulled that off. We will find out what is going on here. This kind of stuck here. So make sure you don't break the spark plugs off there. Pull that back and slide that over your spark plugs. We could actually remove those spark plugs if we want. Okay, that came off of there. So that's one of your covers. Here's your other one. So I was wrong. Not insulation down here, just a seal. That's to keep that from rattling, I'm guessing. So, slide this off. Our nut here. So that's the deal. This nut here is part of your cylinder head nuts, and that just loosened up. All right, now we have the motor completely exposed. More mice nests there. I'm gonna take and set these covers aside. All right, now we're gonna remove our head pipe here. This is another 6mm Allen. We've got 4 bolts to remove here. Go ahead and loosen these up. And then we will dig into that top end. It seemed to turn over just fine, so I'm thinking we don't have any animals living inside of there. Could be wrong. Once I get these loosened up with an Allen like this, I'll put an impact on there and pull these off. The reason why I don't do this from the beginning is because these, with the power of an impact, can really round these Allens out, and then you have a hard time getting them out of there. There we go. Okay, head pipe is off. No holes in that, everything looks good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pull our cylinder head, both of them. So before I get too far along, I'm gonna grab a Sharpie and mark these. We're gonna be sitting this way. Again, we're sitting back here. Clutch is on the left-hand side. All right, we'll start removing cylinder head bolts. Now, when you are going back together, you do wanna make sure you get these torqued. And you wanna make sure you go in a certain pattern. Crisscross. Beyond that, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, these fins are very, very thin on here, so just be careful with those. There's one head, there is the other. Both of those seem to look really good. This you can see maybe a little bit, I mean, that gasket is shot right there. So you can see there's a little bit of residue from your head gasket being bad. So obviously that needs replaced. It would anyways. I don't know how it got like that. It looks like, no idea. I mean, that's in good condition. So anyways, it is what it is there. But that's something that probably we should look at. We've got a little adapter here that connects the 2 cylinders on the intake side. So I'm gonna have to remove that to separate them and then pull them up. Now you can pull them up individually. So there's one, and here is the other. So obviously gonna have to clean all this up. Had a little bit of the mouse nest fall down in there. Never what you want to see, but we're going to get into that bottom end anyways. So go ahead and pull these pistons here. I like to grab an L pick. This is what I'm talking about here, an L pick. Get in behind there, put your finger over top. Don't stab your finger. Don't poke an eye out. Don't shoot this circlip across the room. Don't drop it down in your crankcase. Set that aside. We can take now and push our pin out of there if you can. If you cannot, I can grab the tool to do that. So we'll see. Once we get this one out, we'll try to push them both out. So same thing on this side. Finger over top of it. Don't drop it down in there. So we'll take this pin and just push it out of there. Sometimes you got to use a little bit of force, but you want to make sure you're not dinging the damaging the crankcase or the crankshaft, but you can just tap on it slightly. All right, then you can just kind of work that pin all the way out of there, get it far enough. This one got stuck. We'll grab our pliers again. So take our pliers in, pull that out far enough. You can just lift this off of there. If you got your wrist pin here, you want to replace that. I like to replace both the pin and the wrist pin, or the wrist pin bearing every time, just because it's a common wear problem. Piston looks actually in decent condition for its age. It's got some buildup there, not uncommon. Dome isn't full of buildup. We've also have that piston dome there that's not completely filled up with buildup. So setting that aside, we'll pull this pin as well. All right, same thing on this one. Go ahead and keep pulling that pin out until it's far enough to lift off of there. Again, replace it. Keep those together. Okay, now we'll get into this bottom end here. We got to pull that cradle. We'll finish pulling that 19mm bolt off. Looks to me like we've got some 13mm crankcase bolts there. About a 10 or so of those. So first thing, I'm going to go ahead and get this clutch puller here so we can remove this clutch. We'll finish splitting this case at the same time. We'll remove that crankshaft out of there. So if you guys have questions or comments, make sure and leave those down below. Appreciate any feedback we can get from you guys. Thank you very much for spending your afternoon watching me pull this engine apart. Hopefully you found it helpful. Go ahead and click on the links below for any tools that we use. We've got a lot of stuff for sale on our website. Check our eBay store out, as well as our social media outlets. Make sure you keep an eye out for those. Thank you guys for watching.